The stars looked different in Sector 47. Commander Ziegther had noticed this during his 40 years of service to the Krethian Empire. The light here seemed colder, more distant, as if the universe itself was warning travelers to stay away. But Ziegther was not one to believe in warnings or superstitions. He believed in power, in the strength of the Empire, and in the 200 warships that followed his command, his flagship. The Imperial Fist led the formation through the darkness. Behind him stretched a line of destroyers, cruisers, and battle carriers. They were the pride of the Empire, the iron hand that had crushed 12 species in the last decade alone. Sector 47 was their newest conquest, taken from a coalition of weaker races who had no chance against Krethian military might. Ziegther stood on the bridge, his forearms crossed behind his back. His scales were dark purple, a sign of his noble bloodline. Around him, officers worked at their stations, monitoring the fleet's progress through the sector. Everything was routine. Everything was peaceful. "Commander, we have something on long-range sensors," Lieutenant Wechsler called out from the science station. The young officer's voice carried a note of confusion. Ziegther turned. "Report?" "There's a vessel near the old mining station on the edge of the system. It's not moving, no power signature, no identification signal." Wechsler's hands moved across the controls, pulling up more data. "Wait, it's very old, sir. The hull is covered with impact damage from space debris. It looks like it's been drifting for a very long time." "How long?" Ziegther asked. "Centuries, sir, maybe longer." "A derelict ship, nothing unusual about that." Space was full of abandoned vessels, left behind by civilizations that had died out or moved on. Still, something made Ziegther pause. They were near the edge of explored space here. Any ship this old would have originated from somewhere unknown. "Take us closer," he ordered. "All ships maintain formation. Science team, prepare for investigation." The fleet adjusted its course. As they approached the coordinates, the view screen showed a distant speck against the stars. It grew larger as they closed the distance. Soon, they could make out the shape of the vessel. It was massive. Larger than any civilian ship Ziegther had seen. The hull was battered and scarred, with deep grooves cut into the metal. Pieces of debris clung to its surface, frozen in place by the cold of space. Parts of the ship looked melted, as if subjected to intense heat. Other sections showed holes punched through the armor, but not from any weapon system Ziegther recognized. "What could do that kind of damage?" Wechsler whispered. No one answered. The bridge had gone quiet. Every officer stared at the screen, watching as the ghost ship rotated slowly in the void. "Still no power reading?" Ziegther asked. "None, sir. The ship is completely dead. No heat, no energy, nothing. Even the reactor is cold. Life signs, negative. If anyone was aboard, they died a long time ago." Ziegther considered his options. Imperial regulations required him to investigate any unknown vessel in Krethian space. This sector belonged to the Empire now, which meant everything in it was Imperial property. Besides, a ship this size might contain valuable technology or resources. "Lieutenant Wechsler, take a science team aboard." "Full protective gear. I want to know what we're dealing with." "Yes, sir." Wechsler gathered his equipment and headed for the hangar bay. Ziegther watched as a small transport ship detached from the Imperial Fist and moved toward the derelict. The science team consisted of 10 specialists, each trained for this kind of work. They would board the vessel, conduct a survey, and report back within the hour. The transport moved slowly, its lights cutting through the darkness. As it approached the ghost ship, something strange happened. The displays on the bridge flickered for just a moment. Several officers looked up from their stations, confused. "Did anyone else see that?" one of them asked. "Check all systems," Ziegther ordered. "I want a full diagnostic." But before they could respond, everything went dark. Every screen, every light, every console on the bridge went completely black. Emergency power kicked in a second later, bathing everything in red light. Alarms began to sound. "What happened?" Ziegther demanded. "I don't know, sir. We just lost all primary systems." Everything crashed at once. The engineering officer's hands flew across his controls. "This doesn't make sense. There's no damage, No cause. The systems just stopped. Get them back online, now. While the crew worked frantically, Ziegler looked at the view screen. It had switched to backup power, showing a grainy image of the space outside. The ghost ship was still there, still rotating slowly, but something was different. Lights were coming on inside the derelict. Dim at first, then growing brighter. They flickered along the hull in patterns, like a machine waking up from a long sleep. The running lights illuminated symbols painted on the ship's side, strange symbols that Ziegler didn't recognize. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission," the communications officer said. "It's coming from the ghost ship." "That's impossible. The ship is dead." "I know, sir, but we're definitely receiving something. It's a recorded message. Broadcasting on multiple frequencies." The officer adjusted his controls. "It's in dozens of different languages." "Wait, our computers are translating it now?" A voice filled the bridge. It was artificial, generated by a computer, but there was something unsettling about it. Something that made Ziegler's scales prickle with an emotion he rarely felt. "Fear. Warning," the voice said. "Quarantine zone. Turn back. Do not approach this vessel. Do not attempt boarding. This is your only warning. Turn back now." The message repeated in language after language, each one delivered in the same flat, emotionless tone. Ziegler listened as it cycled through forms of communication he'd never heard before. Whoever built this ship wanted to make sure anyone who found it understood the warning. "What about Wechsler?" Ziegler asked. "The transport? We lost contact with them when our systems crashed, sir. Trying to reestablish communication now." Ziegler watched the ghost ship on the screen. The lights continued to pulse along its hull, forming patterns that seemed almost alive. He could see the transport ship floating nearby, small and helpless next to the massive derelict. "Sir, we have visual from the transport's external cameras," someone called out. A new image appeared on screen. It showed the interior of the transport's passenger bay. The science team was there, but something was wrong. They were all clutching their heads, stumbling around. Wechsler was on his knees, his mouth open in what looked like a scream, though no sound came through. "Get them out of there," Ziegler ordered. "Remote pilot the transport back to the fleet." "Sir, the transport isn't responding to remote commands. All its systems are locked out." On screen, one of the scientists collapsed, then another. Within seconds, all 10 members of the team were on the floor, motionless. "Life signs?" Ziegler's voice was sharp. "Checking." "Sir, they're alive. Unconscious but alive. Heart rates are elevated. Neural activity is off the charts." The ghost ship's lights continued to pulse. Ziegler stared at it, his mind racing. He'd fought in hundreds of battles. He'd seen entire planets burn. He'd watched civilizations fall. But he'd never seen anything like this. "Pull back," he said quietly. "All ships, retreat to 500,000 kilometers. Maintain weapons lock on both the transport and the derelict." The fleet began to move away from the ghost ship. As they did, their systems slowly came back online. Primary power returned. Screens flickered to life. The alarms stopped. "Sir, the transport is moving," the sensor officer reported. "It's heading back toward us." "Did they regain control?" "Unknown, sir. The ship is flying on automatic, heading straight for the Imperial fist." Ziegler made a decision. Tractor beam. "Bring them in, but isolate the transport in Bay 7. Full quarantine protocols. No one goes near it until we know what happened." The massive tractor beam reached out and grabbed the small transport, pulling it gently into the flagship's hangar. As soon as it was inside, heavy blast doors slammed shut, sealing it away from the rest of the ship. "Medical team to Bay 7, Ziegler ordered. "Full protective gear. Treat this as a biological hazard." He watched as the ghost ship slowly faded from view, its lights still pulsing in the darkness. Whatever that thing was, it had just attacked his people without firing a single weapon. It had shut down an Imperial warship with nothing but its presence. The communications officer spoke up again. "Sir, I'm getting data from the transport's computers. Looks like Wechsler managed to download some files from the derelict before whatever happened to them happened." "Show me," text appeared on the main screen. It was in an unknown language, but the computer was working to translate it. Slowly words began to form. Ship designation, SV Defiant. United Human Space Vessel. Registry Colony Transport 7. Crew, 127. Passengers, 49,873. Status, Quarantine Protocol active. Year of launch, 2247. Ziegler did the math in his head. That was over 600 years ago by the Imperial calendar. 600 years this ship had been drifting in space, dead and dark. Until now, humans, he said softly. I've heard that name before, an extinct species. They vanished from the galaxy centuries ago. No one knows what happened to them. More data scrolled across the screen, ship specifications, crew manifests, cargo listings. But one line caught Ziegler's attention. The medical bay was quiet except for the steady beep of monitoring equipment. Ziegler stood behind a thick glass window, watching as doctors worked on the science team. All 10 of them lay on beds, still unconscious. Their vital signs were stable, but something was clearly wrong. Report, Ziegler said to the chief medical officer. Dr. Calvin looked up from his datapad. His expression was worried. They're alive, but I don't understand what I'm seeing. Their brain activity is normal, but there are strange readings in their neural pathways. It's like something is rewriting their brain patterns. Can you wake them? I'm afraid to try. Whatever affected them is still active. If we wake them now, we don't know what might happen. Ziegler nodded slowly. He looked at Lieutenant Wexler through the glass. The young officer had been one of his best. Smart, brave, dedicated to the Empire. Now he lay there, helpless, his body taken by something unknown. Keep them sedated, Ziegler ordered, and keep me informed of any changes. He left the medical bay and headed back to his office. The data from the ghost ship was waiting for him there. His analysts had been working all night to translate and organize the files. Now they were ready to present their findings. 4 officers stood around a holographic display in the center of the room. Images floated in the air above the projector, showing the interior of the human ship. What did you find? Ziegler asked. The lead analyst, a female named Tekra, gestured to the display. Sir, this ship was a colony transport. Its mission was to carry 50,000 humans to a new world. They were all in cryo-sleep, frozen for the journey. The trip was supposed to take 40 years. What went wrong? We're not entirely sure. The logs are damaged and incomplete, but we found records from the ship's captain. His name was Jake Morrison. He made several personal recordings before the end. Show me. The hologram changed. A figure appeared, translucent and flickering. It was a human male, dressed in a uniform that looked clean and professional. But his face told a different story. His eyes were wide with fear. His hands shook as he spoke. Captain's log, day 437. Something is wrong with the passengers. 3 days ago, cryopod 2847 malfunctioned. The person inside woke up too early. We tried to put him back to sleep, but he started screaming. He said he could hear voices. He said something was in his head. The image of Captain Morrison paused, wiping sweat from his face. We isolated him in the medical bay. But then other pods started having problems. People began waking up. All of them saying the same thing, voices, whispers, something calling to them from the dark. Ziegler watched, fascinated and disturbed at the same time. Day 445, it's spreading. 50 people are awake now. They won't stop screaming. Dr. Peterson says their brain activity is off the charts. It's like their minds are being rewritten by something. But there's nothing there. No virus, no bacteria. Nothing we can see? Another pause. Morrison looked directly at the camera. Day 451. God help us. One of them got out. He opened the cryobay doors. Thousands of pods are opening. The passengers are waking up, and they're all infected with whatever this is. We tried to stop them, but there are too many. They're taking over the ship. The recording flickered. When it came back, Morrison looked terrible. His uniform was torn. Blood covered his hands. Day 456. Lisa and I are the only ones left from the command crew. We've sealed ourselves in the bridge. The passengers, they're not human anymore. They move in groups like they're all connected. They don't talk. They just stand there staring at nothing. And they're doing something to the ship. Changing things. Building things? I don't know what. Where's the rest of the crew? Morrison looked off camera. Dead, all dead. Or worse. Some of them joined the passengers. Walked right into the crowd and became part of it. The image showed Morrison sitting down, his head in his hands. Day 460. Lisa figured it out. There was something at the colony site. Something old, ancient. It was buried in the ground, and the survey team woke it up. They brought samples back to the ship for study. Nanotechnology. Self-replicating machines smaller than atoms. They got into the cryosystem. They've been infecting people while they sleep, rewriting their DNA, changing them into something new. Ziegler felt his blood run cold. Day 465. This is my last entry. Lisa and I have activated the quarantine protocol. We're setting the ship to drift into deep space. No navigation, no rescue beacon, no way home. The infected can't be allowed to spread. Earth can't know about this. No one can know. Morrison stood up, moving closer to the camera. If you're watching this, if you found this ship, then we failed. The protocol was supposed to last forever. You need to destroy this vessel immediately. Don't try to board it. Don't try to save anyone. There's nothing human left on this ship. There's only the swarm now. It's waiting. Always waiting. For new hosts. For new meat to transform. His voice dropped to a whisper. We tried to stop it. We failed. God forgive us. Don't let it spread. The recording ended. The hologram disappeared, leaving only empty air. The office was silent. Ziegler stared at the space where the human captain had been. Around him, his officers looked pale and shaken. Is there more? Ziegler asked quietly. Tekra nodded. Yes, sir. We found another recording. From the second in command. Commander Lisa Grant. She made it after the captain died. Show me. A new figure appeared. A human female, younger than Morrison had been. She sat in what looked like a command chair, but the room behind her was dark and damaged. This is Commander Lisa Grant. Captain Morrison is dead. He killed himself 3 days ago. He said the voices were getting too loud. He said he could feel it in his head trying to take control. Her voice was calm, but her hands gripped the arms of the chair so tightly her knuckles were white. I'm alone now. The infected are outside the bridge. They've stopped trying to break in. They just stand there, waiting. I can see them on the monitors. Thousands of them. Not moving. Not breathing. Just standing. The ship is drifting into the outer reaches of the system. In 3 days, we'll be beyond the last beacon. After that, no one will ever find us. That's the plan. That's what's supposed to happen. Lisa looked down at something off camera. I've studied the nanoswarm. It's incredible technology. Whoever made it was far beyond human understanding. It can rewrite DNA in real time. It can connect minds together, making them part of a collective consciousness. It can adapt to any environment, any species. It's perfect. And that's what makes it so dangerous. The infected aren't dead. They're transformed. They're something new. Something that thinks and plans and learns. And they're trying to talk to me now. I can hear them in my head. Faint whispers. They want me to open the door. They promise it won't hurt. They say transformation is beautiful. Her laugh was bitter. I activated the emergency beacon. Against orders. Against protocol. I know I shouldn't have. But I had to leave a warning. If someone finds this ship, they need to know what happened. They need to understand the danger. Lisa stood up and walked closer to the camera. Don't board this vessel. Don't try to recover anything from it. Don't believe you can control the swarm. It's smarter than you think. It's patient. It can wait centuries for new hosts. And when you open the doors and let in fresh life, it will wake up. And it will spread. She reached for something out of view. This is Commander Lisa Grant signing off. To whoever finds this, I'm sorry. We should have been more careful. We should have left the ancient things buried where we found them. Humanity reached too far. And this is the price. The screen went dark. Then a new image appeared. Text only, written in human language. Final entry. Project Ascension compromised. Containment failed. Ship sealed. All crew dead. Passengers transformed. Quarantine protocol Omega active. Do not approach. Do not wake. Do not open. The hologram shut off completely. Ziegther and his officers stood in the darkness of the office, processing what they'd just seen. Sir, Tekra said carefully, there's something else. We found a list of other ships. The humans launched 47 vessels like this one, all of them containing failed experiments. All of them sent into deep space to drift forever. Ziegther turned to her. 47? Yes, sir. Each one carries something different. Biological weapons, rogue AI systems, dimensional experiments. Things that went wrong. The humans tried to hide their failures by shooting them into the void, and we just woke one up. Before anyone could respond, an alarm sounded. Red lights flashed in the office. Ziegther's communicator buzzed urgently. Commander, this is the medical bay. You need to get down here now. Ziegther ran. He reached the medical bay within minutes. Through the observation window, he could see chaos inside. Doctors and nurses were backing away from the beds. Security guards had their weapons drawn. The science team was awake. All 10 of them. They sat up in perfect unison, moving together like puppets controlled by the same hand. Their eyes were open, but they weren't looking at anything. Their mouths moved, speaking words in perfect synchronization. Thank you, they said together. Thank you for waking us, for giving us new forms, new hosts. The swarm is grateful. Dr. Calvin's voice came over the intercom. Sir, they're not the same people anymore? Their brain patterns have completely changed. They're connected somehow, all thinking the same thoughts. Sedate them, Ziegther ordered. The Imperial fleet opened fire. 200 warships unleashed their weapons at once. Energy beams cut through the darkness. Missiles streaked toward their target, leaving trails of fire behind them. Plasma cannons lit up space with bursts of deadly light. The ghost ship didn't try to dodge. It didn't raise shields. It simply continued forward, engines burning as it accelerated toward the fleet. The weapons hit its hull with devastating force. Explosions rippled across its surface. Armor melted. Entire sections tore away and spun off into space, but the ship didn't stop. Through the fire and destruction, through the constant barrage of weapons, it kept coming. Why isn't it going down? Someone shouted on the bridge. Ziegther watched the tactical display. His fleet was pouring enough firepower into that ship to destroy a small moon. Yet the human vessel continued to advance, seemingly ignoring the damage. Parts of it were completely gone now, blown away by the assault, but the core of the ship remained intact. Concentrate fire on the engine section, Ziegther ordered. Cut off its propulsion. The fleet adjusted its targeting. Every weapon focused on the rear of the ghost ship. The engines took massive damage, sections of them exploding in brilliant flashes. But even as they watched, something incredible happened. The damaged parts began to repair themselves. Metal flowed like liquid, filling in the holes. Destroyed systems rebuilt themselves before their eyes. That's impossible, the weapons officer whispered. The nanoswarm, Ziegther said. It's not just in the crew. It's in the entire ship. The vessel itself is infected. On the medical bay monitors, the 10 infected crew members had stopped screaming. They stood now, all facing the same direction, toward the approaching ghost ship. Their lips moved in silent words. Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the derelict, the communications officer reported. His voice shook on screen. The view screen changed. Instead of the exterior view of the ghost ship, they now saw the interior. The image was grainy and dark, but clear enough to see what waited inside. Thousands of figures stood in the corridors. Humans, or what had once been humans. Their skin had a strange silver sheen to it. Their eyes glowed with a faint blue light. They stood perfectly still, row after row of transformed beings. Then they spoke. All of them at once. Thousands of voices merged into one. We are the gift. We are the future. We are what humanity became when they reached beyond their limits. They tried to stop us. They tried to hide us away in the dark. But you have given us new purpose. New hosts. New worlds to transform. The image shifted, showing a close-up of one of the transformed humans. It had been a woman once. Now it was something else. Something beautiful and terrible. Don't resist. Transformation is inevitable. Join us. Become perfect. Ziegther cut the transmission. All ships, emergency protocol. Self-destruct authorization code required from all command officers. We're ending this now. His officers stared at him in shock. Sir, you can't mean... I do. That ship can repair itself faster than we can damage it. The swarm is spreading. Our own crew is infected. If we let this reach Imperial space, it will consume everything. Ziegther's voice was firm. We stop it here. Even if it costs us the entire fleet. The bridge went silent. Then, one by one, the officers began entering their authorization codes. The self-destruct sequence required input from every senior officer on every ship. It would take time. Time they might not have an alarm blared. The sensor officer looked up in horror. Sir, we have a breach in Cargo Bay 3. The blast doors just opened. Who opened them? I don't know. The system says it was authorized by a security protocol, but no one gave that order. Ziegther felt ice in his veins. The infected. They're connected to the ship's computer. Seal off all routes to the cargo bay. Send security teams to... He never finished the sentence. The lights went out. Not just on the bridge, but throughout the entire ship. Emergency power didn't activate this time. They were in complete darkness. Everyone stay calm, Ziegther said. But he could hear the fear in his own voice. A new sound filled the bridge. Footsteps. Slow and steady. Coming closer. In the darkness, Ziegther could see faint blue glows moving toward them. The infected crew members from the medical bay. Somehow they'd escaped. Somehow they'd gotten to the bridge. Seal the doors. Ziegther shouted, but the doors didn't respond. Nothing responded. The computer systems were completely locked out. Sir, the ghost ship, someone said in the darkness. It's right next to us. Through the view screen, which had somehow remained active, they could see the human vessel. It had stopped firing. It now floated less than a kilometer away from the Imperial fist. This close, they could see details on its hull. Strange symbols. Patterns that seemed to shift and move. And openings were appearing along its side like mouths opening in the darkness. Things began to emerge from those openings. Small objects, no bigger than shuttlecraft. Dozens of them. Then hundreds. They poured out of the ghost ship like insects from a hive, each one heading toward a different Imperial vessel. They're boarding pods, the tactical officer said. Every ship in the fleet is being targeted. Ziegther grabbed his communicator. All ships repel boarders. Do not let those pods attach. This is a direct order from your commander. But even as he spoke, he watched the first pod slam into the hull of a nearby destroyer. It didn't explode. Instead, it attached itself to the metal and began to burn through. Within seconds, it had cut a hole large enough to allow entry. More pods hit more ships. The fleet was trying to shoot them down, but there were too many. And the Imperial vessels were starting to behave strangely. Some had stopped firing altogether. Others were turning toward each other, weapon systems activating. Sir, the destroyer Crown is targeting the battleship Storm, an officer reported. They're preparing to fire. Tell them to stand down. I can't reach them. Communications are being jammed by something. The Crown opened fire on the Storm. Energy beams cut through the storm's shields, ripping into its hull. The storm returned fire, and within moments, two Imperial ships were engaged in combat with each other. It's spreading to the other ships, Ziegther realized. The swarm is taking control of the crews. More ships began firing on their neighbors. The organized fleet formation collapsed into chaos. Vessels that had fought together for years now turned their weapons on each other. And through it all, the ghost ship sat silent and still, watching its work spread. The footsteps on the bridge had gotten closer. In the emergency lighting that had finally activated, Ziegther could see them. The 10 infected crew members, led by Lieutenant Wechsler. They moved with an eerie grace, their eyes glowing with that same blue light. "Commander," Wechsler said, but it wasn't Wechsler's voice. It was something else speaking through him. "Why do you fight? We can show you such wonders. The swarm has traveled for millions of years, perfecting countless species. We can make you better, stronger, more than you ever imagined." "You killed my officer," Ziegther said. "Wechsler is dead?" "No, he lives within us." "All of them do. Their memories, their knowledge, their essence. Nothing is lost. Everything is preserved and improved. Join us. Let us show you." The infected crew moved forward. Security guards opened fire, but the bullets seemed to have little effect. The nanoswarm repaired damage as fast as it occurred. The infected didn't even slow down. Ziegther made a decision. He pulled out a device from his belt. A dead man's trigger, connected directly to the ship's reactor. If he released it, the Imperial fist would explode, taking everything nearby with it. "Stop," he commanded. "Or I destroy this ship and everyone on it." The infected paused. Wechsler tilted his head, studying Ziegther with those glowing eyes. "You would kill yourself? Your entire crew? For what? Pride? Fear? To stop you from spreading. To protect the Empire. The Empire's already lost. Look." The view screen changed, showing views from across the fleet. Ship after ship was being taken over. Crews were being transformed. The infection was spreading faster than anyone could have imagined. In less than an hour, half the fleet was compromised. "It's too late," Wechsler said. "The swarm cannot be stopped. It can only grow. And soon, very soon, we will reach your homeworlds. We will transform your species. We will make everyone perfect." Ziegther looked at his officers. They were terrified, but they trusted him. They would follow his orders, even if those orders meant their deaths. He thought about his family back on the homeworld. His children, who believed their father was a hero. His mate, who waited for his return. He thought about the billions of Krethians who had no idea what was coming for them. And he thought about the human captain, Jake Morrison, who had made the same choice 600 years ago, who had sealed his ship and everyone on it, sending them into the darkness to protect the galaxy from his mistake. "Send a message to Imperial Command," Ziegther said quietly. "Tell them everything. Tell them about the ghost ship, about the swarm, about the danger. Tell them to evacuate Sector 47 and seal it off. Nothing gets in or out. Sir, do it now." As his communications officer rushed to send the message, Ziegther raised the dead man's trigger. "I'm sorry, Wechsler," he said. "I'm sorry I couldn't save you." Wechsler smiled. It was a sad smile, and for just a moment Ziegther thought he saw something of the real lieutenant in those glowing eyes. The Imperial Command Center was a massive structure orbiting the Krethian homeworld. It housed the military leadership of the entire empire, the admirals and generals who controlled 1,000 systems. The walls were decorated with battle honors and conquered flags. This was a place of power, of strength, of victory. Today it felt like a tomb. Magistrate Thelanox stood in the center of the command chamber, surrounded by holographic displays. Each one showed a different view of the disaster in Sector 47, ships exploding, fleets in chaos, signals going dead one by one. In the span of 3 hours, they had lost contact with 200 warships and over 50,000 crew members. "Play the transmission again," Thelanox ordered, the main display activated. Ziegther's face appeared, streaked with sweat and fear. His voice was urgent. Imperial Command, this is Commander Zeekther of Battle Group 12. We have encountered a hostile force of unknown origin. It is not a military threat in the traditional sense. It is something far worse. A technological infection that spreads through contact. We call it the swarm. The image flickered as weapons fire lit up the background. The swarm originates from a human vessel, a ghost ship that has been drifting for 600 years. We attempted to board it. That was our mistake. The swarm was dormant, waiting for new hosts. Now it is active and spreading through my fleet. Zeekther looked directly at the camera. You must evacuate Sector 47 immediately. Seal off all jump points. Nothing can be allowed to leave this system. The swarm cannot reach Imperial space. I repeat, it cannot be allowed to spread. An explosion rocked the bridge behind him. We are initiating self-destruct protocols across the entire fleet. It is the only way to contain this threat. Tell my family. The transmission cut to static. Thelanox watched it end, then looked around the chamber. 20 senior officers stood waiting for his orders. Their faces showed confusion, disbelief, and fear. Opinions, Thelanox demanded. Admiral Corval spoke first. He was old, covered in scars from 100 battles. It's a trick. The rebels in Sector 47 must have developed some kind of weapon. They're making up this story about humans and swarms to cover their attack. 200 ships destroyed by rebels? Another officer asked. Impossible. Then what's your explanation? Corval shot back. I think we should take Zeekther at his word, said Admiral Velsha. She was younger, known for her intelligence rather than her combat record. He was one of our best commanders. If he says this is a serious threat, we should listen. You want to evacuate an entire sector based on a panicked message? Corval scoffed. I want to be cautious. The cost of being wrong is too high. Thelanox held up a hand for silence. What else do we know? Are there any other transmissions from the fleet? A junior officer stepped forward nervously. Sir, we received data packets from several ships before they went dark. Scientific analysis, sensor readings, and log files. Everything Zeekther mentioned checks out. The ghost ship exists. It is of human origin. And there is evidence of some kind of nanotechnology. Show me. The displays changed, showing the translated logs from the UHSV Defiant. Captain Jake Morrison's warnings. Commander Lisa Grant's final message. The details of Project Ascension and the containment failure. As they watched, several officers went pale. This can't be real, someone muttered, but the evidence was there. Video recordings from the boarding party. Biological scans of the infected crew members. Sensor data showing the ghost ship repairing itself. It was all documented, all verified. There's more, the junior officer said quietly. We found a reference to other ships. The humans launched 47 vessels into deep space. Each one contains something dangerous. Failed experiments. Biological weapons. Technology that went wrong? The chamber went silent. 47, Thelanox repeated. Are they all in our territory? Unknown, sir. The logs don't include coordinates. But if they're drifting randomly through space, they could be anywhere. Admiral Velsha stepped forward. Sir, we need to issue an emergency withdrawal order. Get all our ships out of Sector 47 before the infection spreads further. Then we seal off the entire region. Make it forbidden space. That's 100 systems, Corval protested. Billions of citizens. Resources we need. You want to just abandon all of it? Better than letting this swarm reach the homeworld. The argument escalated. Officers shouted over each other, debating strategy and priorities. Some wanted to send more ships to fight. Others demanded immediate evacuation. A few suggested using the planet-killer weapons to destroy everything in the sector. Thelanox listened to them all. He was old enough to remember when the Krethian Empire was small, when they fought for survival against larger powers. Now they were the largest power. They had conquered 1,000 worlds. They believed nothing could threaten them, but humans had believed that too. and humans had destroyed themselves rather than let their mistakes spread. Enough, Thelanak said. His voice cut through the arguing. I've made my decision. We evacuate. Sir, every ship in Sector 47 is ordered to withdraw immediately. Any vessel that doesn't respond or refuses the order will be destroyed by our defense fleet. We're not taking chances. What about the citizens? The colonies? We send transports. We have 48 hours to get as many people out as possible. After that, we seal the jump points and establish a quarantine zone. Nothing goes in. Nothing comes out. For how long? Forever, if necessary. The officers began to protest, but Thelanak silenced them with a look. This is not up for debate. I am invoking emergency powers under the Imperial Security Act. My word is law. Anyone who disagrees can submit a formal complaint after the crisis is over. He turned to the communications station. Send the withdrawal order now. All frequencies. All ships. And broadcast a warning about the ghost ship. If any other vessels encounter similar derelicts, they are to avoid them completely. No boarding. No investigation. No contact. As his orders were carried out, Thelanak looked back at the displays. Ships were jumping out of Sector 47, fleeing as fast as their engines could carry them. But he could see the ones that weren't responding. The ones that were still in the sector, silent and dark. Already infected. Already lost. Sir, we're receiving reports from the evacuation, an officer said. Some ships are reporting strange behavior. Crew members acting strangely. Systems malfunctioning without cause. Have those ships been in contact with the infected fleet? Yes, sir. They passed through the debris field from the destroyed vessels. Thelanak felt his heart sink. The swarm was in the debris, floating through space, waiting for any ship that came close enough. And in their rush to evacuate, dozens of vessels had flown right through it. Order those ships to stop. Quarantine them immediately. Sir, they're already jumping to other systems. They're carrying refugees. Thousands of people. It was too late. The infection was spreading beyond Sector 47. Ships that had been exposed were now traveling to other parts of the Empire, carrying the nanoswarm with them. In trying to save people, they had doomed them. Track every ship that came through Sector 47, Thelanak ordered. I want to know where they're going. Alert those systems to the danger. Maybe we can contain this before it gets worse. But even as he gave the orders, he knew it was hopeless. The Empire was too big, too spread out. They had colonies in 1,000 systems, and ships traveled between them every day. If the swarm got into the trade routes, into the civilian traffic, it would spread like wildfire. Admiral Velsha approached him. Sir, there's something else in the human logs. Something I think you need to see. What is it? A message. From someone called Admiral Kyle Bennett. He was the human fleet commander who oversaw the launch of the ghost ships. She activated a new recording. A human male appeared, older than the others they'd seen. He wore a uniform covered in medals. His expression was grave. My name is Admiral Kyle Bennett, commander of the United Human Fleet. If you're watching this, then one of our containment vessels has been found. And that means we failed. Bennett paused, choosing his words carefully. 600 years ago, humanity reached a point of technological advancement that we thought made us gods. We could manipulate matter at the atomic level. We could rewrite DNA like editing text. We could connect our minds together into vast networks. We reached for the stars and beyond, trying to touch the very fabric of reality itself. But we reached too far. We created things that should never have existed. We opened doors that should have stayed closed. And we paid the price, species-wide, civilization-wide. The Admiral's face hardened. The ships you found are our prisons, our tombs. Each one contains a mistake we made, a failure we couldn't fix, technology that turned against us, experiments that consumed everything they touched. We couldn't destroy these things. They were too resilient, too adaptive. So we did the only thing we could. We sealed them away and launched them into the void, hoping they would drift forever in the darkness where no one would ever find them. But nothing drifts forever. Someone always finds the forbidden door. Someone always opens it. And now you've learned what we learned. Some knowledge should die with its creators. Bennett leaned forward, looking directly at the camera. If you've opened one of our ships, if you've let the contents escape, then I'm sorry. We tried to warn you. We left messages in every language. 6 months had passed since the ghost ship appeared in Sector 47, 6 months since Commander Ziegther sent his final transmission. 6 months since the Krethian Empire learned that humanity had once existed, and that humanity's legacy was death. The Galactic Council met in neutral space, on a station built by a dozen different species. Representatives from across known space had gathered for an emergency session. The chamber was filled with beings of every shape and size, all united by one thing. Fear. Magistrate Thelanox stood at the center podium. He looked older now, worn down by months of crisis management. His scales had lost their shine. His eyes showed the weight of terrible decisions. The quarantine is holding, he reported. Sector 47 has been sealed. We have destroyed 37 vessels that attempted to leave the zone. No infected ships have escaped into Imperial space for the last 4 months. A Kellian delegate raised its tentacle. What about the ships that got out before the quarantine? The ones that carried refugees? Thelanox's silence was answer enough. They spread the infection to 14 systems before we could stop them. We were forced to evacuate those systems as well. 7 billion citizens displaced. 3 billion lost to the swarm. The chamber erupted in shocked whispers. 3 billion dead. It was a number too large to truly understand. How did you stop it? Asked the Victor representative. We didn't stop it. We contained it. Every infected system has been sealed off. No ships in or out. We're keeping the swarm trapped, same as the humans did 600 years ago. For how long? Forever. Another delegate stood. This one was from the Orthy Federation. Magistrate Thelanox, you mentioned that the humans launched 47 of these ghost ships. Have any others been found? Yes, 3 more have been discovered in the last 6 months. 1 in Kellian space. 1 near the Victor border. 1 drifting through unclaimed territory. He activated a display. 3 ships appeared in the hologram, each one massive and old. Each one broadcasting the same warning in dozens of languages. The Kellians found theirs 2 months ago. They ignored the warning, same as we did. The ship contained something different. Not a nanoswarm. A biological weapon. A virus that rewrites organic matter at the cellular level. It turned their research station into a mass of mutated tissue before they could evacuate. The entire station is now a living organism, consuming everything that comes near it. The Kellian delegate's skin turned pale. The Victor encountered their ship 3 weeks ago. They were smart enough not to board. They destroyed it from a distance with antimatter weapons. But the explosion scattered debris across their system. Some of that debris landed on a colony world. Now the entire planet is infected with something we don't understand. Something that makes machines come alive. Ships, stations, even simple tools. All infected. All dangerous? And the third ship? Someone asked. Still drifting. We have it under observation. No one has gone near it. We're trying to determine what it contains before we decide what to do. The council chamber buzzed with conversation. Fear was spreading faster than any infection, the Orthy delegate spoke again. Magistrate, you said there were 47 ships? That means 43 more are still out there, drifting through space, waiting to be found. Correct? Then we need to find them. All of them. Before anyone else stumbles across them. We've been searching, Thelanox said. Every species has. But space is vast. These ships have been drifting for 600 years. They could be anywhere, and we have no way of tracking them. The humans made sure of that. A new voice spoke from the back of the chamber. It was quiet, but it carried authority. Everyone turned to look. An elderly saurian stood slowly, leaning on a staff. He was one of the oldest beings in the galaxy, a historian who had studied ancient civilizations for over 300 years. "I may be able to help with that," the saurian said. His name was Professor Halrek. "I've spent my life studying extinct species, trying to understand why civilizations fall. And I've been researching humanity since news of the ghost ships spread." He walked slowly to the center of the chamber. Thelanox stepped aside to let him speak. "Humanity was the most advanced species the galaxy has ever known," Halrek said. "They reached a level of technology that we can barely imagine. They could manipulate space-time. They could create artificial intelligence more powerful than any organic mind. They experimented with dimensions beyond our understanding. And it destroyed them," someone said. "No, that's what we thought. But I found something in the ancient databases. Something that changes everything." He activated his own display. Images appeared in the air. Human cities, vast and beautiful. Space stations the size of moons. Ships that could cross the galaxy in days. It was a civilization at its peak, powerful and glorious. This was humanity 600 years ago, at the height of their golden age. They had colonies in 10,000 systems. They had a population of 3 trillion. They were unstoppable. Then what happened? Thelanox asked. "They discovered something, out at the edge of the galaxy. Something ancient, something that had been waiting for billions of years. The images changed. Now they showed strange structures in deep space. Massive constructs that didn't match any known architecture. They were dark, silent, and impossibly old. Human scientists called them the monuments. Structures left behind by a species that existed before anything else. Before any of us. Before the galaxy was even formed." Halrek's voice dropped to a whisper. "The humans studied the monuments. They tried to understand the technology. And, in doing so, they opened a door that should have stayed closed. They woke something up. Something that had been sleeping for eons." "What did they wake up?" Velsha asked. She had come to represent the Krethian military. "We don't know. The human records are incomplete. But whatever it was, it scared them enough to destroy their entire civilization. They didn't fall to war or plague. They chose self-destruction. They systematically dismantled everything they had built. And they did it fast. In less than 100 years, they went from 3 trillion people to 0. The ghost ships were part of that," Thelanox realized. "Yes, they put their most dangerous experiments on those ships and launched them into space. They were cleaning up, removing anything that might threaten other species. It was their final act of mercy before they disappeared." "Where did they go?" someone asked. "If they didn't all die, where are they now?" Halrek pulled up a final image. It showed a region of space on the edge of the galaxy. The human expansion had stopped there suddenly, all their colonies abandoned at once. "I believe they went there. To the monuments. To face whatever they had awakened. And I believe they're still there. Holding back something terrible. Protecting us from a threat we don't even know exists." The chamber went silent. The implications were staggering. Humanity wasn't extinct. They were in exile, fighting an endless war against something unknown. "How do you know this?" Thelanox demanded. "Because I found something else. A message. Hidden in the data from the ghost ship. It was encoded in a way that only someone looking for it would find." He played an audio file. A human voice spoke, distorted and broken. "This is Captain Pete Harrison of the monitoring station Alpha 7. Date: April 15th, 2247. This message is for anyone who finds our ghost ships. We know you'll find them eventually. We know you'll open them. We know our mistakes will spread, but you need to understand. The things on those ships are nothing compared to what we're facing out here. They're just symptoms of a larger problem. We touched something we shouldn't have. We woke something that should have stayed asleep. And now we're paying the price. The ghost ships are warnings. They show you what happens when you reach too far. When you try to touch technologies beyond your understanding, don't make our mistake. Don't go looking for the monuments. Don't try to study them. Don't even get close to them. Humanity is gone. We chose exile over endangerment. We're holding the line at the edge of the galaxy, keeping something contained. Something that would consume all life if it ever got out. That's our burden. That's our punishment. The ghost ships will keep drifting. Keep warning. Keep scaring species away from the forbidden's knowledge. That's their purpose. That's why we made them so dangerous. So you would learn to fear what we created. So you would never try to recreate it. Stay away from the edge. Stay away from the monuments. Stay away from us. If you come looking, you won't find salvation. You'll only find the same choice we faced. Transform or die. Surrender or exile. There are no other options. This is Captain Pete Harrison, signing off. And praying you're smarter than we were. The message ended. The council chamber was absolutely silent. Thelanox looked at Halrek. Is that real? I believe so. And I believe we need to take it seriously. The ghost ships are bad, but they're just the beginning. If anyone goes to the edge of the galaxy, if anyone tries to study those monuments, we'll face the same fate as humanity. Then we need to declare that entire region forbiddance, Admiral Velsha said. No exploration. No research. Complete isolation. Agreed, said the Kellian delegate. Others nodded around the chamber. But what about the remaining ghost ships? Someone asked. We still need to find them before they cause more damage. We'll continue searching, Thelanox said. Every species needs to contribute. Share sensor data,